Gary Griffith joined us. I know he's not in the country. So, Gary, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Andre. How are you?
I'm all right. Gary, we just heard and we were just told by Douglas Camacho that indeed, as I know you have been pushing, and I want you to expand on it a little bit more, that the St. James Barracks is there. The problem is someone from the Ministry of National Security needs to talk with, obviously, the Ministry of Sport to ensure that the national teams can use the facility. And that seems to be one of the biggest bugbears. He also mentioned, of course, that hockey finally, or maybe in the month of June, we'll have the Tagariga ground ready for hockey, the service, everything. But your perspective first, and again, welcome, on what's going on in hockey, or in fact that nothing is going on in hockey. Let me start that way.
Yeah, sure. And again, this is not, good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. This is not in any way for us to point fingers at Douglas Camacho or the Trinidad and Tobago Hockey Board. In fact, I have been communicating with them, and I can assure you that this President Trinidad and Tobago Hockey Board and Douglas Camacho, they are trying everything that they can, but it has reached a point where it requires ministerial intervention. And therein lies the problem. When I was Commissioner of Police, I was fully aware of my role and function to reduce crime. There's primary crime prevention, which everybody would have seen Gary Griffith involved in, hard targeting, law enforcement, high visibility, jumping walls, arresting people. But there's also another important aspect known as secondary crime prevention, and that involves utilizing energies to take young persons away from a life of crime. And it involves better education, health facilities, social development, and sport. Sport plays a critical part so that a young person can utilize their energies in the right manner, which is why I was able to establish the Commissioner's Cup, and then actually getting communities where there were gangs in communities to actually start playing football, and they want to battle on the football field, and you've got gangs to start socializing with other gangs, because using sport as an avenue to burn your energy, and then you get that degree of camaraderie. Sport also plays a big part, not just in making you a better sportsman, but making you a better young man or woman in punctuality, leadership, uniformity, teamwork, and all of the different things that can develop you. So that is what I pushed. So when it is that I revamped the facilities at St. James Barracks, it wasn't just for the fun of, because I like sport. If you look at the North Ground is probably the best football field in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's why the national team, they were training there. The South Ground, for decades, Andre, and Trinidad and Tobago will know, that was the home for hockey.
Yes.
But it was, the ground was a sand, or it was virtually a dust bowl. Just before I became commissioner, the previous Commissioner of Police turned it into a graveyard for 500 vehicles, if you recall. I removed the 500 vehicles, and I spent probably 10% of the cost for the same AstroTurf in Tacarigua, because what I did, I removed the middleman. I looked at everything that is required. So that turf is not the type of turf for an international hockey game. So that turf is, so you have the types of turf that will be approved for international hockey, which is the one in Tacarigua. But the facility that we have in St. James Barracks, it allows you now to be able to play hockey at any level, from veterans, youth development, even a national league, and you could also play windball cricket, you could play football, and I needed that to help develop the community in St. James and the environs, to get young persons to come there at no cost. I spoke to the Member of Parliament, Keith Scotland, on 11 occasions. I have seen him personally. I've asked him for his email address. I'm still waiting on it. I may have to use a coal pot to send smoke signals so that he will get the message. But it shows, unfortunately, I think there have been 3 ministers in Parliament who have ever been representing Trinidad and Tobago on any national team in sport. That have been Gary Hunt, Arnold Roberts, and myself. The problem lies right there. We have politicians who do not understand the importance of this. When I put that turf there, Andre, it was to ensure that hockey can be built back. So as much as Douglas is stating that we are building back that turf in Tacarigua, arguably that turf in Tacarigua killed hockey to some extent, because almost 80% of the hockey teams, the clubs, the players were from the Western Peninsula. It is good to develop hockey and expand it, have a turf in San Fernando, have one in the east, have one in Tobago, and one in the west. But that was not the case. All the hockey stayed in Tacarigua. What the hockey board is doing now, if they put that turf back in Tacarigua, that should be the focus for the national teams to train. What is happening now is that the national teams are training in St. James Barracks alone. But here is where the big problem lies. Let me just quickly, as I close on this, it is $500 being charged for the national hockey teams to train in St. James Barracks.
So I want you to pause here, and I want to ask you this, Gary Griffith. That charge is from is that the police force? How did that 500 charge come about? Did it come about when you were there? Explain that to us.
No, definitely not, and that is the point. When it is we opened that hockey turf, the Minister of Sport was there, Roger St. Rose as the then acting president of the hockey board. They were all there, and I said it point blank. I stated to the hockey fraternity that this turf was built by taxpayers' money.
Right.
This was not a Gary Griffith turf. This was not a police turf. I got taxpayers' dollars to pay for it at about 10% less to the cost of Tacarigua. But by putting that turf there, it was to ensure that it was available for the community and also to reignite the sport of hockey. When I left, all of a sudden, the police sports club have taken control and they are charging $500 an hour. What that means is that for 3 seasons now, we have been unable to have hockey, and we have an AstroTurf, an artificial surface, that is there. You could play championship, veterans, Trinity, youth hockey. And guess what? The only club that can really afford to train on that turf is Queen's Park Cricket Club. And the reason I'm saying that, even though I'm a member of Queen's Park, so it's not to blame Queen's Park, but this is the same Keith Rowley that stopped the AstroTurf from being built in Mandela Park through Mayor Martinez for the exact reason, because he did not want to have a facility that only the rich and famous who can afford it could utilize it. So the police sports club is doing the exact thing that
who is in charge of the police? But who is in charge of the police sports club? Because I don't want to believe that the government in charge of the police sports club. So it must be somebody in the police service who is in charge of the police sports club.
Well, yeah, there's an individual in charge of the police sports club, but this is where the commissioner of police needs to intervene. But again, just like the present minister of sport, the present minister of national security, the last two are the acting commissioner and the present commissioner. They never kicked a line, so they are not interested. So the police sports club has now virtually commandeered the turf and telling everyone, you want this turf, it's $500 an hour. And I think Douglas mentioned it. Douglas knows this thing well. All that is required, which is what I had. I was going to put it for free for next to nothing. And then what you're going to get, Andre, you're going to get hundreds of people coming up there watching hockey. The police, the pavilion that I built there would have been utilized now for a bar, for facilities. You will get advertisements. You will get billboards. The lights will come on. And now it will generate over $2 million.
Who is in charge of the police sports club, Gary? Who is in charge, Gary Griffith, of the police sports club?
I don't know. At this time, there was a Mr. Pierre. I don't know if he is still in charge, but this is where it comes in. All that is required. I drafted the letter. I sent it to Shampa Kuchu. All that is required is an interministerial note between the Ministry of Sport and the Ministry of National Security, giving authorization for the sport company to take administrative and logistic control of the turf so that they can now utilize the turf as best as possible.
Douglas spoke about that.
The sport of hockey.
Douglas did speak about that.
And that's what that is required. Yeah. I drafted the interministerial note. I drafted it because I know you have to spoon feed these ministers because they never kicked a line. So all that is required, it goes to cabinet and it is handed over to the sport company. The sport company now will utilize that turf 24/7 from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. on a Saturday and Sunday. You can have youth development. You can have tournaments, veterans hockey reignited, Trinity games, championship games. And you leave Tacarigua for the national team to train fully on an international surface. That is what is going to reignite the sport. But for a year and a half, I've written to Shampa Kujo. As I said, Keith Scotland keeps promising to send me his email. So I am going to use a coal pot and send smoke signals to him. Because that's the only way that he'll get the message. And it is unfortunate because they do not understand the importance of sport. And as sport is dying, hockey arguably is one of the most successful sports in Trinidad and Tobago. I think it is the first sporting team that qualified for a World Cup final. This was before our Soca Warriors in 2006. I was the manager, so I could tell you.
No, don't forget the netball team. 1979 netball.
Yes, I one of.
All right. Yes.
But we qualified. The netball team were world champions. This is just qualified.
Okay, fine.
For a hockey team to qualify for a World Cup, where the players, the national teams now are only getting to use that turf probably once a week because you've got 2 or 3 national teams. The hockey board cannot and should not be able to have to afford this. That turf was built on taxpayers' money to help develop the sport of hockey and to have it utilized for youth development.
I want to make sure, and I want to clear this again. So while you were the police commissioner, Gary Griffith, there was no $500 TT charge.
No, not at all. When it was opened with on that premise that it was to be used, and so the national team will be training, and there was no costs because the turf does not belong per se to the Trinidad and Tobago.
So the police commissioner, Earl Christopher, more work for her. And we need an answer. It's just sort of night, because I need an answer from the Defense Force about a Lieutenant Colonel Jason Hill. So now I need, oh boy, what a night. Gary, as you go, a final message from you, because Douglas did mention it, and he did at the end mention the importance of sports for Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, again, it is, as I said, it's unfortunate. We've had hundreds upon hundreds of ministers, people who have gone to cabinet, and they don't understand sport. Sport has continued to be a secondary sport, a by-the-way sport, a by-the-way ministry, and therein lies the problem. But then when they win, we are the first persons to turn up there and celebrate. I remember our World Cup football team in 2022. They were provided with nothing. They got nothing. And then when they didn't qualify, you criticize the players and the technical stuff. We need to have a government that understands that sport must be a prime ministry, not secondary. That sport should not be an extracurricular activity, but a core curricular activity. Until we start doing that and start showing respect for our sportsmen and our facilities, we are going to continue to make them suffer. And then when they succeed, we're going to turn up at the airport, name aircrafts after them, have excursions for them. It even happened with Kishon Walcott. Kishon Walcott, when the javelin was given to him, and he was told by the that this was we'll lend this to you and make sure you give us back.
Yeah, I remember.
The man was coming back home on economy class ticket, and the president of the TTUC had to hand over his seat so that he will come back on first class. This is how we disrespect our sportsmen, and it is high time we have a government that understands the value of sport, and not just when they win, but prior to. And that is what is going to turn finalists to medalists.
Gary Griffith, thank you very much for your time. Stay safe, and we'll talk again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.